where do we get meaning? What makes something meaningful?
Yeah.
So I posit the idea that meaning can only come from the tension or relationship between content and context.
Yeah.
So context, I mean context in the broadest sense, where it could apply to mathematical formulas, theories, perspectives, experience. So it's the thing that you use to examine the content or the specific data point that you're trying to examine.
Yeah.
So for us, we create meaning, therefore, like we're trying to appreciate a specific piece of art. So our appreciation, our meaning of that piece of art, so that's the content, the piece of art. And then we create meaning by putting that art into the context of our experience, of our understanding,
Yeah.
of our feelings. So that creates meaning. But on a fundamental level, like for example, in mathematical formulas or electron subatomic particles, the number 5, for example, in of itself doesn't have any meaning.
Yeah.
It doesn't even represent a specific quantity. Like it could be 5 of anything. You need a unit of measure for 5 to mean something.
Yeah.
Like 5 can mean one thing depending on the unit of measure. So the unit of measure or the formula where you input in 5 serves as the context in which we can extract meaning out of.
Yeah.
So in that way, therefore, I believe that if we put like reality, our experiences of reality in the context, in the content, and then we use religion as a context, so that creates a lot of meaning out of that. Out of that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that meaning, even if you've extracted meaning, as I said, we should not conflate meaning with reality. So using that measure, even if we get meaning from that function, we should always compare it to predictive power. So that's my system, that's my theory, that any meaningful data or even the sense of meaning itself only has meaning if we can use it to predict future occurrences or future data. So that's where religion kind of fails in a way, because it doesn't lend itself into, it doesn't have a lot of predictive power, and even for anything that it's able to kind of predict, it doesn't predict it well, or it doesn't translate well into reality. So that's why that's how I've come to believe that religion, and actually that works for a lot of things that you believe dogmatically, that if you affix the context on how you understand the content of reality, you don't allow that context to adjust, to move, the meaning that you create is not going to be aligned with what actual reality is, because reality is very complex and there's a very specific kind of alignment of content and context that must occur for us to home in on like the perfect context that would maximize our ability to predict data, understand data, and predict our reality.
Of course, religion offers answers to deep existential questions, right? From the origin of life, origin of the universe, right? And what will happen after we die, or even what will happen to until the end of time, right?
Yeah.
So, what do you think religion get right or wrong here in the explanation of these existential questions?
Well, that's a very complex thing to try to assess. But basically, I don't think that it scores very well in predictive power in any context. Like, of course, you can that's where all of the religious apologetics comes from. So any form of evidence that we see in nature, in reality, that doesn't seem to jive with what religion is telling us, there is always a way to justify why religion is still correct.
Yeah.
So we are trying to change. I keep coming to that idea that we are, if you are not willing to move the context or your perspective on how you understand reality, then you have no choice but to move the content itself, to move the data itself, in order to be able to justify, okay, why is this still true, or why is this still correct? Because I am not going to move my perspective. This is true. This is absolutely true. This is dogma. This is where I've created my whole life and perspective and community around of. So how, if I change this for just this piece of information that doesn't seem to jive well with the rest of my understanding and my identity, that seems to not be right. Like, are you going to say that my whole identity and my whole understanding of reality is incorrect just because there's evidence to show that we came from monkeys, for example, like evolution?
Yeah.
That's not what God says. So it traps us into this, and then once we get to a certain justification, it becomes part of the religious canon. It creates this epiphanous moment again that, oh, God didn't mean it in that way, or you're misinterpreting the Bible or something, or whatever religious texts or beliefs you have.
Yep.
So it's like you gained, it feels like you've gained a deeper understanding, but when in reality you actually dodged and deflected the truth, the data point, in order for it to fit into your belief system.
Yeah. So I think this is also mentioned by Kant, Immanuel Kant, the critic of pure reason, that if you use reasoning on the basis of metaphysical ground, right, it escalates very fast to a more absurd way, right?
Yeah.
Like, because basically this is just a matter of language, right? We try to level things. That's why we have different versions of spirituality or religion. Each have different names of whatever metaphysical object they are referring to, right? So clearly they're just somehow, you can say, byproduct of human minds, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's also your view, right?
Yeah, more or less, yeah. So, well, yeah, we kind of conflate the idea that intelligence is in itself like proof of reality. So we tend to like depend on intelligent people to tell us, okay, what is this true? Is this real? And then when intelligent people believe things that agree with your beliefs, that kind of justifies your belief as well.
Yeah.
But in my studies of, that's another pitfall as well, that in my studies of psychology, intelligence is just our ability to see patterns.
Yep.
And that ability to see patterns both can blind you or can reveal deeper truths. So if your way of seeing patterns is in the form of justification, creating needless complexity, justifications for why your belief is still correct, regardless of the evidence, then that allows, that's still something that intelligent people can do, but that doesn't mean that it's right. Because you need to always temper the patterns that you observe with reality, with evidence, because otherwise, why? Why do anything? You're not really looking into reality. You're not trying to understand reality. You're trying to defend a certain position for a certain goal, which, I don't know, it differs for different people, but this is this is why even intelligent people, like some intelligent people, even scientists,
Yeah.
still believe in religious beliefs. Although, of course, everything is like a spectrum. Even some outwardly, or they've identified themselves as of a specific religion or denomination, they still think in terms of more secular mindset. They compartmentalize their religious beliefs versus their beliefs of science and evidence.
Yeah.
While there are also supposedly more atheistic identities, people who have identified as atheists, but who still believe in terms of dogma. So there's a lot of nuance there, and that's one of the things that's different between nuance and needless complexity. So nuance is something that you understand in order to deepen your understanding and increase your predictive power. But needless complexity actually decreases your predictive power.
I once talked with a pastor in a local church.
Yeah.
I asked him if you believe in God, then why should be the God of your religion? He's quite honest to say that it's only by faith to make sense of religious teachings, right? So he mentioned that the concept of logos by Socrates, he linked with the logos concept in the Bible, that the Word of God become what we have now, the physical existence. So it makes sense to him that there must be something beyond the physical existence, right? And you can only approach this reasoning through faith, right? But from my perspective, that's quite unsatisfactory, right? Why should we rely our ideology on something that's unfalsifiable?
Yeah.
So somehow religion and spirituality, based on the concept of unfalsifiable statements, attached with emotions.
Yeah.
I think that's what I view religion and spirituality was all about. So, can we really be religious? Do we need to be religious? Do we really need religion, right, to feel the emotion or the deep sense of meaning, right? And
it kind of, that's one of the reasons why people seem to be scared. In like religion, as we've established, gives a lot of meaning, deep emotional meaning in people, and science doesn't like provide. Science is very like sterile in comparison. Like it doesn't provide a lot of meaning and a sense of fulfillment or humanity in people.
Yeah.
But yeah, personally, it took also a lot of like where if you leave religion, like it's like you're being thrown into the void. Like before you were being taken care of, like the universe just makes sense, and then suddenly you're out there fending for yourself, being forced to think about things that you thought you've taken for granted to be true because of your faith. So, but I do believe that it's more of what the sense of belongingness and fulfillment that religion provides is more or less misplaced sense of humanity. So we just need to remember that's where I get most of my meaning now, in the sense of collective goodness, in the collective goodness of humanity, that despite this overwhelming meaninglessness of reality itself, we are still able to do good things, to create meaning out of nothing. So it's it's absurdism basically, but also religion kind of messes with our perspective of what meaningful things are, and what meaningful thing or what are the things that are meaningful and what are the things that are not meaningful, because you have this enormous universe, basically the whole of reality, you're loving you. That's a very kind of it elevates your sense of identity that you are being loved by this
Yeah.
absolutely eternal, omniscient, omnipresent, whatever you have being. But then you say that, okay, that being doesn't exist. Where can I get meaning? So it kind of messes with our sense of scale of where do we get meaning. But meaning is actually, I think, I believe in all of the small things. Like, for example, even if there's a piece of garbage there and I picked up the piece of garbage,
Yep.
it's a very, very small act. But it's meaning in other people that they're able to go throughout their day not seeing a piece of garbage, that generates a lot of good. So if we reclaim that proper sense of scale, where we get meaning from doing small things, even small things that are good, being compassionate with our fellow people, like we maximize our sense of meaning with the people that we interact with, not with the universe. Of course, with the universe, we're not going to mean anything in the scale of the universe. We don't mean anything, but we don't have to, because we are most meaningful with how we interact with each other, with ourselves. And if we regain that perspective of finding maximum meaning from helping other people, because other people get, because it's much more meaningful for them, that little help that you give, then we can fix that feeling of void and abandonment when we try to leave religion, I think. So, but is it okay? I'd like to also touch on
Sure.
what you said about faith, because there's also an element of, there's different kinds of faith. There's good faith and there's bad faith. So in my case, I define good faith as provisionally believing in something even with the lack of evidence of. So if you don't, it's kind of like how you start to believe in yourself, even if you haven't started on a certain project or a certain goal. You don't have any evidence to show that you can achieve a certain goal. You need to believe in yourself that you can achieve it, and from that belief, that enables you to actually achieve that goal. So that's a good faith kind of faith.
Yep.
But there's also bad faith, where despite all of the evidence, regardless of the evidence, you still believe on something 100%, regardless of what reality actually tells you. That's bad faith, because you already have a conclusion. In philosophy, there's a priori and a posteriori kind of belief. So a priori is you already basically believe on the conclusion, and then you provide the argument later. But for a posteriori, you don't believe anything, or you provisionally believe everything, and then you first provide, you look at the arguments, and then you change your belief based on the conclusion that the arguments points to. So it's okay to have good faith. Not all faith is bad, but you always need, as I always say, you always need to temper your faith, your beliefs with reality. You need to realign, because the moment that you start to try to shape reality according to your beliefs instead of reality shaping your beliefs, then that's when you get trapped into this cages of belief systems.
Yeah, that's a really strong view. Yeah. Of course, religion would say that religious people are happier, tend to be happier, and those who don't have religious beliefs, atheists or agnostic, tend to be depressed.
Yeah.
But I would like to say that countries that are religious, the people will allocate their time entertaining their own metaphysics, and only a little time allocated on national progress. So countries that are more secular or less dogmatic approach in their faith are actually progressive like in compare with the Western world, and countries like Philippines and Indonesia are less progressive because of our ideology. So progressive countries, of course, have better educational system, healthcare, right, and of course, meaningful life, right.
Yeah.
So how can we balance these things, right, to be happy or to be progressive?
Yeah.
Do you have a point on that?
Yeah, I see that dilemma as well. Like there's research on that well, people that are religious tends to be happier because there's a kind of bliss in ignorance, like seeing reality in more simpler terms, that you don't have to worry about the injustices, that many injustices that are happening daily in our current society. You are comforted by the fact that there is a God that looks into these justices, and there will be a reckoning later.
Yeah.
So there's a moral. We all have a moral accountability that we need to think about what is good and what is bad. But for religious people, they have outsourced that moral accountability, as I said with the stoplight analogy. We've outsourced the definition of good and bad to this being that we elevate and we call God. So it's a very comforting thought, and it creates a lot of happiness and even sense of belongingness, of course, in the communities that is created because of religious beliefs. But for progressives, we tend to not be as happy because we are more accountable with our morality, our perspectives, basically, that we see these injustices and we know that there's that we need to do something about it. There are progressives that are still religious, but there is a greater sense of individual accountability that you need to do something for justice to happen. So, although I think there's a follow-up research on that says that even though more religious people seem to be a bit happier, but more secular people have more like meaning, have a higher emotional effect. They have a higher emotional effect to life experiences. Like they are there in life, experiencing life more presently than religious people, because they're not thinking about, they value the present, the people around them more than religious people who are always looking at the afterlife or looking at how God or some other being outside of their immediate reality are looking at them and their actions. So I think that that's one of the things that perpetuates the sense of religion, is the sense of comfort that it creates. But that comfort doesn't take away the realities and injustices that are happening. So it's actually, I think, it's actually what perpetuates these injustices that are happening, because we always outsource and then sterilize these moral accountabilities that we have, that we should be accountable to each other, but instead of us being accountable to each other, we are thinking that there's always someone else, someone greater, someone who has better responsibility or power than me, that is being accountable for these people.
Yeah, during the scientific revolution, which time of Galileo, right? That they use now scientific tools, mathematics, to analyze the data that we had, right? So the sad thing about that, those who accept the Copernican model of the universe, that we're not the center of the universe, we're not even the center of the solar system, So those who believe in this new amazing hypothesis, which is derived from mathematical analysis, was persecuted by the church, right? You know the story very well of Galileo. So in science versus religion, we have somehow religion have this dogmatic approach of the explanation about reality, while science we update our knowledge based on our current observation, right? So religion somehow don't like scientific revolution because it will challenge their explanation about physical existence. Our second case is that if you know Thomas Paine, who softened dogma, which society benefits from. Thomas Paine was part of the writing of the American independence and the French Revolution in the late 18th century. So despite of this amazing contribution by Thomas Paine, he was still hated by people just because he had this different view about religion. So even if he mentioned in his writing that even if he believed in one God, he was still hated in the sense that he attacked religion. He said that doctrines are man-made to use to monopolize power and profit, especially during his time. And I feel in the Philippines or even in the most religious countries have this notion that somehow religion have still control, they control in politics or any given society, right? So somehow progressive ideology and religion somehow contradicts with each other. So do you have any particular example or take on this concept?
All right. But I do observe the same, and I have this concept of I mentioned it a bit earlier, but I can explain it. I can expound on it now. The concept of maximization and minimization.
Yep.
So there are certain approach like how can we achieve a certain goal? We either maximize a positive thing that seems to achieve that goal, or we minimize the things that are against that certain goal. So for religion and science, for example, religion is a truth maximalist approach, while science is a falsehood minimalist approach. So religion, in contrast to science, has a certain set of dogma, and then it maximizes that dogma, that truth, to encompass the whole of reality, because it claims that this dogma is reality. It's how reality works. So it's a truth maximalist, while science, in contrast, is a truth minimalist. Like we tend to discover the truth by eliminating all of the things that we are sure that are falsehoods. So by process of elimination, we discover the truth using science. So that's why there's a big difference in approach, where it tends, therefore, that religion, once it has set on a certain dogma, and this is true for all religions apparently, what it has set on a certain dogma, it maximizes that dogma and doesn't allow that dogma to be changed.
Yeah.
And then for science, even our grandest theories, there has been multiple instances where our grandest theory at the time was debunked because there's better evidence that has arose that better explains the data and reality that we have observed. So from if you know the history of science, it's like it happens all the time, from a geocentric perspective of the solar system. Then we had a heliocentric. Geocentric is the Earth is at the center of the solar system, the universe, and then we changed to a heliocentric model when there's too much evidence that goes against geocentric model. But actually, in terms this is intriguing. In terms of actual predictive power, did you know that the geocentric model, with its epicycles or smaller cycles within a certain planet's orbit, it's actually very highly predictive. There's a lot of predictive power in there, because it's like the most advanced model at the time of how the planets move, and that's the only thing that we're able to observe. But as we discover more phenomenon and more the movements of other heavenly bodies that doesn't seem to follow the geocentric model, that's when we are forced to adopt the heliocentric model. So from the heliocentric model, so also from Newton's laws, we debunked it, and then we replaced it with general relativity. But technically, Newton's physical laws are very, very highly predictive. Like for general relativity to be proved, there's only a difference of like several decimal places, like 0.000, in a very, very specific observation of an eclipse that happens. So there's a very, very small deviation in how the stars seem to move behind the sun during an eclipse.
Yeah.
So if it crosses a certain small threshold, then it debunks Newton's gravity versus in favor of general relativity. So these are very, very precise observations, and that's what makes science great at predictive power, at its predictive power, because we're able to, using these very precise measurements, we create these models that are able to create accurate and precise predictions of reality. So
Newtonian physics works, it's like an estimate of the general theory of relativity without the rasping of space and time. So flat space, so Newtonian works. Right.
Like for most of our day-to-day lives, Newton's laws works well enough, and actually very, very accurately. But for just very, very specific readings, that's when Newton's laws start to break down, and for other like specific phenomena like black holes and things. So so in terms of progressiveness and conservativeness, the same thing, I also have the same model. Like conservativeness is a comfort maximalist approach to how society should be organized, while progressives are more of a suffering minimalist approach. So conservatives likes to maximize or expand whatever is already in society that's good, and then progressives is more of tries to minimize or call out any form of injustice or suffering that society causes to others. So there's those are the different approaches that we want. We technically want the same thing, but because of our difference in basic approach, in assumptions, and how we can get to that thing that we all want, a society that would take care of us. That's the differences in our perspective. So maximalists basically, it's like an unsaid thing that changes your whole perspective. So that's why each side says that the other side is stupid or the other side is evil. So based on the conservative view, for example, comfort maximalist view, the people who are already comfortable, why are you going to take away their rightful things just to give it to other people who doesn't deserve it? So that's both stupid and evil in their perspective.
Do you think there's an optimum level here, being maximalist and minimalist in some sort?
I would prefer the progressive suffering minimalist approach personally, because when you the thing with maximalist approaches, like it depends on whatever you're trying to maximize.
Yeah.
Like for example, if applied, for example, in economics,
Yeah.
Keynesian economics would try to maximize employment. So it wants government to intervene in economic downturns in order to revitalize the economy, versus the Frankfurt School that says no, economy works best if it's not being meddled with.
Yeah.
So you let it do its own thing. So on that sense, I would more side with Keynesian maximalist, trying to maximize employment and economic activity, rather than the Frankfurt School of just allowing things to happen with little to no regulation. So it depends.
Yeah, in terms of rational thinking, right? We build societies, or even like simple as like, and I'm not sure if that's complex, like building roads, right? So we use rationality to build stuff, right? And religion somehow take the place where rational thinking should be, and those who have a more dogmatic approach in their faith, right, are less rational. So that means it opposes the progressive ideology in somehow in deeper sense, right? That we become less progressive if we are religious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have observed this, that people who wants to have like like all of the answers, like simpler answers to what reality is,
Yeah.
they tend to have like conservative or religious perspective. So it's more it really is more of like your personal your personal circumstances. Like
Yeah.
of course there are it would be better if they're able to find or understand the nuance in the complexity of reality, but it's kind of with how complex reality already is, it's not it doesn't seem justified to expect everyone to know all of the nuance into it. So but the only thing that we need to adopt in order to still be to avoid the pitfalls of religious or conservative thinking, for example, is to have, as I said before, the good faith provisional belief. Like, okay, so this is my belief of what reality is. It's a bit simpler, but it's provisional. Given better data or given better understanding of the thing that I have a provisional faith or understanding of, I should change my position, my perspective. So that's where the pitfall comes in, is regardless of whether reality goes against your provision, but should be your provisional belief, you hold that belief in dogma and defend it because, I don't know, for different reasons. It could be that you're directly benefiting from that situation, or you have identified yourself with that situation. But as a good rule of thumb, for example, in like, for example, in terms of hierarchies, are hierarchies in societies okay? So for me, I don't think it's ever okay, because who creates a hierarchy and then puts themselves at the bottom?
Yeah.
Whoever creates hierarchies always puts themselves at the top. So in religious beliefs, there's a hierarchy of God, then man, then husband, then wife, then children. Who do you think enforced that hierarchy? He invented that hierarchy where they ended up at the top.
I think this is also what I shared earlier, that Thomas Paine critiqued religion as man-made. Right? So those who ever created these doctrines are, of course, those who want to monopolize power. Yeah, I think we're on the same page.
Yeah.
So if you consider religion as backward or harmful, or religion do more harm than good, So, what are the alternative to religion? So, in my view, I rather have a more humanistic approach of
Yeah,
life, right?
definitely.
That I rather have to maximize the well-being of any human being without referring to any metaphysical concept like morals from the Bible or any religious text, right? So the problem, those who have this, that they can derive moral values from metaphysical objects, is that it will just be a matter of interpretation, right? And those who have this interpretation, say like religious leaders, will use this concept that they have this moral source, and you should follow me, and that's the danger in what we have, what's happening in the history, right? So even non-religious discussion, like concept of communism, right, or the view of equal whatever, right? So those who have this objective moral, that they have this objective moral source, is really a dangerous thing, right? So,
Yeah. So I agree with it. I'm literally with a group called Humanist PH, or Philippine Humanist Mission. So I do agree that a more humanist approach would be much better. But yeah, even if you're not able to like let go of religious beliefs, because I can see that there are people, and we still need to include them. They're still part of society, and we
Yeah.
still need to consider them, their perspective. There are certain personalities and perspectives that's not able to operate without having some form of what looks like religious belief.
Yeah.
So as long as we can encourage what I'm talking about, having provisional beliefs, and allow people to have the space and to encourage them to change their perspective given better data or arguments or experiences, because no one has a monopoly on what the right thing to do is. As I said, morality is a conversation. It's a set of conventions that we all must agree on what the right thing to do is, and the pitfall comes when we assert that we know for sure, only we know for sure what the right thing to do is. So because even if the religious would try to say no, I'm not saying that I know what the right thing to do is, God is. But how does it also so happen that whatever God wants benefits you? Most of the time, like there are so many instances of cult leaders, mostly being men, eventually telling their followers that, hey, God said that I should have multiple wives and I should have sex with any woman that I wish because God says so. How does it so happen that God would want something that's absolutely selfish for him? That only he benefits from. So it's more of, as I said, it's more of a projection really than anything that has to do with reality. So we really do need to teach people that it's okay to doubt, it's okay to question, and that's the main thing that scares religious people, is the ability for people to think for themselves, to question. Like many religious people may say that, okay, it's you're free to question, you're free to argue. Of course, we're open like that, but there will always be a dogma that they will always defend, that would that they have accepted as reality, that they will never change. So that's the thing. You should never think in terms of dogma. You should always think that I may be wrong, other people might be wrong, even my culture might be wrong about something,
Yeah.
and it needs to change if it so happens to make other people suffer because of that dogma.
Because of course we have the rights to have a religion, right?
Yeah.
So we just need to approach religion as more culturally religion,
Yeah.
and removing the faith or dogma dimension. Is that what you're telling? Trying
Yeah.
to
Well, there are, because religion is a complex thing. Like religion has this very close relationship with culture. Like culture and religion seems to inform each other. Like
Yeah.
as you said, for most people who are in religions, they didn't have like that moment na, okay, show me all of the possible religions. I'm going to examine all of them, and then I'm going to pick the one that's best for me. That's
Yeah.
not how it happens. You are born into a family of religious people. You are born into a society with a specific religious belief, a specific cultural expression, and that shapes who you are. So that's where you identify, that's where you capture that sense of what you know, of who you are. So we need to decouple that idea that our religion and is the same as our culture. There are parts of our culture and our religion that we should leave behind, especially if it's not allowing us to grow individually or as a society, because it tends to hurt other people. Like there are certain parts of culture that you can say, oh, it's just our culture, but it's very hurtful of other people. Like, for example, I would argue circumcision. It literally hurts babies.
yeah.
But it's cultural or it's religious, depending on your background. So should we or should we not stop circumcision, regardless of how many babies it's hurt? Or there are many other examples, but I don't want to go further.
So I think we can wrap up our
Yeah, sure.
discussion. So, thank you again for coming here.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
glad to have a conversation with you.
Sure.
So, for sure, there's a second round or
Yeah,
third or whatever you like.
anytime.
So especially with the happening now in the country, right? There's flooding, and it's really sad to see Filipino people, and we just hope to have a better country, and we deserve better politicians and better life. Right? So if we really want to start over, we start from our thinking, and that's why we have these amazing conversations.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thank
coming
you so
here.
much.
So, wala kang sasabihin?
No, you can try to visit us on our group, Humanist PH. You can find us on Facebook or our website, kaligtasan.com. So, I'm there. I'm the head of the Secular Filipinos for Better Governance. So, we believe that a secular approach when it comes to governance and politics would be better for us as Filipinos.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you.